Wisteria, energy, twister.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Encyclopedia of Faeries. We're now on actual fairs. Fairs in English is another term for carnival, basically. They're more or less the same. The good people are known to attend human fairs, and also to have fairs of their own. Fairs held by fairies seem to be much in line with their human counterparts. There's an account, and it comes from Keatley's Fairy Mythology. It's typical in most points. One time, about 50 years since, a person living at Combe St. Nicholas, a parish lying on one side of that hill near Chard, was riding towards his home that way, and saw, just before him, on the side of the hill, a great company of people that seemed to him like country folks assembled at a fair. There were all sorts of commodities, to his appearance, as at our ordinary fairs, pewterers, shoemakers, pedlars, all kinds of trinkets, fruit, and drinking booths. He could not remember anything which he had usually seen at fairs, but what he saw there. It was once in his thoughts that it might be some fair for Chesterford, there being a considerable one at the time of the year. But then again, he considered that it was not the season for it. He was under very great surprise, and admired what the meaning of what he saw should be. At length it came to his mind what he had heard concerning the fairies on the side of that hill, and it being near the road he was to take, he resolved to ride in amongst them and see what they were. Accordingly, he put his horse that way, and though he saw them perfectly, all along as he come, yet when he was upon the place where all this had appeared to him, he could discern nothing at all, only seemed to be crowded and thrust, as when one passes through a throng of people. All the rest became invisible to him until he came to a little distance, and then it appeared to him again as at first. He found himself in pain, and so hastened home, where, being arrived, lameness seized him all on one side, which continued on him as long as he lived, which was many years, for he was living in Combe, and gave an account to any that inquired of this accident for more than 20 years afterwards. And this relation I had from a person of known honour, who had it from the man himself. That's in 1850. A few exceptions can be found, however, with fairs that are overtly dangerous to humans. The Goblin Market, described in detail in a poem by Rossetti, is a good example of what we know as fairies' fairs, I guess. And then we come to the term fairy. It's not what you think it means. When everybody thinks fairy, they see a little being with wings, right? It's not so. It's not even a single being. Term fairy is complicated. Its obscure origin. It was originally used to describe the other world itself, the world of fairy. It's not an adjective for beings from that world or a type of enchantment. The oldest form is French fée, denoting a being connected to fate. Then it evolved into English féerie, indicating enchantment. Only later would the word shift to indicate an individual being rather than a place or a type of magic. In this sense, it's strongly reminiscent of the Irish term sihi, which in the same way is a word indicating a place used as an adjective, but later shifted to indicate the individual beings. Now it is applied in general term for all otherworldly beings, as to many different groups, including elves, Daon Sihi, Tileftag. The word's always been amorphous application that included a range of beings and was equated to other terms like elf or goblin, which also had vague connotations. There are multiple accounts across a variety of sources which gloss fairy with elf, goblin, and imp, which is true, it's interchangeable. The problem is that actually it was never a single word. By some modern accounts, the word fairy offends them, and euphemisms should be used instead. Why this word would offend them may seem less clear to us today, because we know that it's not really a name for them, but rather for an actual realm or some sort of magic. You know, it's not termed at them as being, oh, that is a fairy. A fairy's meaning it later changed to be an individual being, to be a being, but it was never meant to be that. That's not what it was. The word fairy was otherworldly, enchanted people. That's all it meant. It's just that it got changed through time into something that it's never meant to be. And so the word fairy as it stands is actually otherworldly and enchanting people, not a Tinkerbell. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fairies.
Wisteria. Energy. Twister.